Welcome to another video lesson in general mathematics. This is the second part of finding the inverse of a one-to-one function. Okay, so sa video lesson na ito ay ang pag-aaralan natin ay kung paano natin kuhanin ang inverse ng isang function. So, unlike in the previous natin na video lesson, which is ang kinukuhanan natin ng inverse ay yung graph, yung table of values at saka ng ordered pair. But in this video lesson, so yung mga functions na talaga ang ating kukuhanan ng inverse. So, these are the steps in finding the inverse of a function. So, 1, write y is equal to f of x. So meaning to say, yung ating f of x ay papalitan natin ng y. Second, interchange x and y. So after natin mapalitan yung ating f of x ng y, ang next natin na gagawin ay i-interchange natin yung x and y natin. Pagpapalitin natin yung ating variable x at saka yung ating variable y. And then ang next natin na gagawin is we have to solve for y in terms of x. So, once na na-interchange na natin yung dalawang variables na yon, then that is the time that we will be solving for y in terms of x. So, y yung may iwan sa kabilang side and then the rest of the terms ay doon na siya sa right side. And then, after that, we change y to inverse notation, which is this one, yung y inverse or yung f inverse of x. So, ito yung notation na gagamitin natin after nating perform yung step number 3 natin. Okay, so for example, apply natin yung mga steps na diniscuss ko in the previous slide. So, find the inverse of f of x is equal to 4x minus 5. So, para makuha natin yung inverse ng function na ito, yung 4 na steps lang yung ating susundan. So, yung unang step natin is we have to change f of x to y. So, from our given function which is f of x is equal to 4x minus 5. So, ang gagawin lang natin ay papalitan natin yung f of x natin ng y. So, we will have here y is equal to 4x minus 5. Okay, so that is our step number 1. Now, for step number 2, we will just interchange our x and y. So, yung ating y dito, gagawin natin siyang x. Yung x natin dito, gagawin natin y. So, ang magiging equation na natin ngayon is x is equal to 4y minus 5. And then, after nyan, once na na-interchange na natin yung ating x and y, the next thing that we have to do is isosolve na natin yung y. So, dapat yung y ang maiiwan dito sa kabilang side, tapos yung x and the constant and the rest of the terms ay maililipat natin doon sa kabilang side. So, solving for y in terms of x, so ang gagawin lang natin is ililipat natin yung negative 5 dito, okay, para manatiling positive yung ating variable y. So, magkakaroon tayo ngayon ng x plus 5 is equal to 4y. Now, since ang target natin is y lang yung matitira dito sa right side, so, divide natin siya by 4. As a result, we have here x plus 5 over 4 is equal to y. So, after performing step number 3, ang last natin na gagawin is we have to change yung ating y dito to inverse notation. So, ang gagawin lang natin, yung y na yan ay gagawin natin siyang f inverse of x is equal to x plus 5 over 4. Now, kaya f inverse of x ang ginamit natin dito because originally ang ibinigay sa atin dito ay function f. Okay, so kung ito ay g of x, so ang magiging inverse noon ay g inverse of x is equal to x plus 5 over 4. So for our second example, we have find the inverse of f of x is equal to square root of x squared minus 1 for x which is greater than or equal to 1. Now, notice na yung ating domain ng function na ito ay nilimit lang natin siya which is from 1 to positive infinity because originally this function here is not a one-to-one function. Now, para makuha natin yung kanyang inverse, kailangan natin ilimit yung kanyang domain which is from simula lang sa value na ito hanggang sa positive infinity because if you're going to inspect yung ating function na ito, we can also use negative values. Okay? For example, negative 5 because once you square that one, that will give you positive 25 minus 1. So, positive yung magiging result nun. Pwede pa nating ma-extract yung kanyang root. Now, pag nangyari kasi yon, yung ating function ay hindi na siya papasa doon sa ating horizontal line test. So, kaya nililimit lang natin yung ating domain which is from 1 to positive infinity lang tayo. So, in finding the inverse, so same process pa rin yung ating gagawin. So, we have here again, we have to change f of x to y. So from f of x natin dito, magiging y is equal to square root of x squared minus 1. And then, second step natin is to interchange our variable x and y. So from y again, gagawin natin siyang x, and from x, gagawin natin siyang y. So magiging x is equal to square root of y squared minus 1. Okay? And then, we have to solve for y in terms of x. So iwanan natin yung y dito sa right side, and the rest of the terms ililipat natin doon. But first, we have to remove our radical. So para ma-remove natin yan, we have to square both sides. So magiging x squared is equal to y squared minus 1. Matatanggal na yung ating radical sign dito. And then, pwede na nating ilipat yung 1 sa kabilang side. So magiging x squared plus 1 is equal to y squared. At para y lang yung may iwan dito, we have to extract the square root. So ang magiging result ngayon yan ay square root of x squared plus 1 is equal to y. So, changing our y to the inverse notation, so ang magiging result natin dito ay f inverse of x is equal to square root of x squared plus 1. And then yung x natin dito is greater than or equal to 0. Now, kung mapapansin niyo, nagbago yung ating domain na ginamit dito. Kanina kasi x is greater than or equal to 1. So para makuha yung 0 na yan, we'll just substitute yung 1 dito sa ating given na function. So we have 1 squared minus 1 that will give us 0. So square root of 0 is 0. Kaya mag-start lang tayo sa 0 dito. And then for our third example, so we have find the inverse of f of x is equal to 4 minus x squared for x which is greater than or equal to 0. So take note again na yung ating given function dito is a quadratic function, and by nature ng quadratic function, hindi siya one-to-one. So that is why nilimit natin uli yung ating domain. So dinefine lang natin yung ating function for x which is greater than or equal to 0. So hindi natin isasama yung negative na values ng x. So later, magbabago din yung ating domain para doon sa ating inverse. So same process na gagawin natin. We change f of x to y. So we have y is equal to 4 minus x squared. And then interchange x and y. So magkakaroon tayo ngayon ng x is equal to 4 minus y squared. Ayan ha, wag mali dito. Pinalitan lang natin yung ating mga variables dito. And then after that is we have to solve for y in terms of x. So since ito ay minus y squared, so ito ang ililipat natin sa kabilang side para maging positive siya. Tapos ilipat na rin natin yung x dito sa kabilang side. So solving for y in terms of x, kakaroon tayo ngayon ng y squared is equal to negative x plus 4. And then, extracting the root, we have here y is equal to the square root of negative x plus 4. And then interchanging our, or changing our notation here to inverse notation. So ito na ngayon yung magiging result natin. And then we take note na ang ating result dito is square root of negative x plus 4 for x which is less than or equal to 4. So bakit kaya less than or equal to 4? Because as you can see, dito sa ating radical na ito, once na nag-substitute ka ng 4 dito, magiging 0 na ito, so define pa siya. But if you're going to use 5, so magkakaroon tayo ng negative dito na value. So magiging undefined yung ating function. So kaya tayo gumamit ng less than or equal to 4 para yung mga values na negative yung ating kukuhanin. Okay? So ayan yan. So para ma-check natin kung talagang inverse sila sa isa't isa, kailangan lang nating i-perform yung composition of function. So sa pag-perform natin ng composition of function, so dapat dalawang composition of function yung ating i-perform. Yung una ay yung f composed of g of x, and the other one is g composed of f of x. So dapat ang lalabas dito ay parehong x. So kung ang gagamitin natin na notation ay yung ating inverse notation, so dapat yung ating f composed of f inverse of x ay dapat equal siya doon sa ating f inverse composed of f of x. At ang magiging result lang natin dito ay x lang ang ating makukuhang value sa dalawang compositions of function na ito. Once na ganito yung kanilang result, then ibig sabihin nun, yung dalawang functions na yon ay inverse sila sa isa't isa. Okay, so for example, show that the two functions are inverses. So we have here the first function, f of x is equal to 1/3 x minus 3, and g of x is equal to 3x plus 9. So kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, we'll just have to perform compositions of function for both f composed of g of x and g composed of f of x. And then dapat ang magiging results natin doon ay parehong x. So for the first one, so yung case 1 natin, we have f composed of g of x. So ang input natin dito ay yung ating function g, which is yung 3x plus 9. So substitute natin siya dun sa ating function f. So we will have here 1/3 times 3x plus 9 minus 3. And then i-distribute natin si 1/3. So we will have here 1/3 times 3x plus 1/3 times 9 minus 3. So 1/3 times 3x, we can cancel out this one. Ang matitira na lang ay yung 1 times x, which will give us x. Tapos 1/3 times 9, so 9 divided by 3, that will give us 3. So matitira dito sa ating second term is just 3. And then we'll just copy the last one, which is minus 3. And then as you can see, we have here 3 minus 3, that will give us 0. So our f composed of g of x is equal to x. Now, uulitin ko, hindi enough na yung f composed of g of x lang yung maipakita natin na x yung ating result. Okay? So, kailangan din natin ipakita na doon sa g composed of f of x ay dapat x din yung kanyang magiging result. So, for the second part, for g composed of f of x, now this time, yung f of x naman ang gagawin nating input doon sa ating g of x. So, we have here g of 1/3 x minus 3. And then, substituting yung 1/3 x minus 3 doon sa ating function g, we'll have here 3 times 1/3 x minus 3 plus 9. And then, distribute lang natin yung 3. We have here 3 times 1/3 x minus 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 9. Okay? And then, ito, cancel out na natin yung 3. So, what is left here is 1x or x. And then, we have here plus 9 minus 9. This one here is already 0. Dito pa lang pwede na nating tanggalin yan. So, since the same yung ating nakuhang result for f composed of g of x and g composed of f of x, then masasabi natin na yung f of x natin and g of x ay inverses sila sa isa't isa. Another example, so show that the two functions are inverses. F of x is equal to x squared plus 2 for x which is greater than or equal to 0. And then g of x, which is the square root of x minus 2 for x which is greater than or equal to positive 2. So, performing the same process for our f composed of g of x, so magiging input muna natin ay yung ating function g. So, we have here square root of x minus 2 squared plus 2. So, we can cancel out yung ating radical since may square tayo dito. So, what is left here is x minus 2 plus 2. And then, negative 2 plus 2, that will give us 0. So, ang matitira na lang dito for our f composed of g of x is equal to x. And then, another one, for the second case naman, yung g composed of f of x. So, ang x squared plus 2 naman ang magiging input natin sa ating function g. So, ayan. And then, if you're going to simplify this one, x squared na lang yung matitira because we have here positive 2 minus 2, that is 0. Okay? So, ang square root ng x squared, that will give us x. So, since the same uli yung ating result dito, which is x, so, ibig sabihin yan, inverse sila sa isa't isa.